In today's video, we're gonna talk about image stabilization with this Sony A6700 along with this kit lens, the 16 to 50 millimeters that is optically stabilized. Hello everyone, I hope you are all good. A few days ago I posted a video about this Sony A6700 here and I got a message concerning the image stabilization of this camera, so I decided to answer this message in today's video. This camera has 3 different modes for stabilization. We have the off, where there is no image stabilization at all. That means we rely only on the optical stabilization of the lens. We have the standard, which refers to the IBIS of this camera, the sensor that is stabilizing the footages. And we have also the active stabilization. This one refers to the electronic stabilization of the camera, and we have a huge crop on the electronic stabilization of this camera. On the active stabilization, about 40% in the frame, and that's a lot, but that's handy in some situations. So let's go outdoors and make some stabilization test with this camera in a vlogging scenario first. Now I'm testing the Sony A6700. Stabilization is off, so I'm totally relying on the stabilization of the lens, on the optical stabilization, and I'm trying to walk slowly in order to vlog handheld. My arm is extended somehow to the fully, and now I will try the same configuration with a tabletop tripod. 16 millimeters once again, tabletop tripod now to hold the camera. It's a little bit more extended than the arm length. I'm not having any stabilization on the camera, not the IBIS and not the active stabilization of the camera of the A6700, only the optical stabilization of the lens. Now I'm at 16 millimeters once again, handheld without the tabletop tripod. I'm using the optical stabilization of the lens and the IBIS of the camera. I am in standard mode, standard stabilization mode. And once again, I'm walking slowly to try not to have lots of jitters in the footages. Tabletop tripod now, and I have the standard stabilization mode, which is once again the IBIS of the camera, the IBIS of the sensor, the in-body image stabilization. I have it extended arm length plus the length of the tabletop tripod. Now I am in active stabilization mode, so we have the IBIS, we have the optical stabilization and the electronic stabilization of the camera. It's in the same distance away from me, but as you can see, it's much more tight on the face. That's why the 16 millimeters in this active stabilization mode is not wide enough, because we crop a lot into the image, as you can notice here. 16 millimeters active stab mode, which crops a lot into the sensor, into the image, and I have the tabletop tripod to help me extend the image a little bit more, the camera a little bit farther away from me, so I can have somehow a wide shot, even though now I can feel that the camera and the tripod are heavy, even though the total weight is not so much with this camera. But when you extend your arm to the fully, you can feel the weight, especially if you are vlogging for a long time. It is really difficult to stabilize the footages handheld while walking and talking in the streets in a vlog scenario, and it's even worse using a mini tripod, a tabletop tripod. That's why the active stabilization comes in handy, but once again that comes at a certain cost of a huge crop into your frame, and that means that the 16 millimeters that you think it's wide enough, well, it's not wide at all when you activate the active stabilization of the camera. That will crop a lot and the image will be so tight on your face, and that's not something that you would like to have on your vlog probably. For this reason, it's way important to use a wide angle lens if you would like to vlog handheld with your Sony A6700 and have smooth footages. You have lots of options in the market. You can choose whether the zoom lenses 10 to 20 millimeters from Sony, you can use the 10 to 18 millimeters from Sigma, or even the 11 to 20 millimeters from Tamron. You can also use some fixed lens such as the Viltrox 13 millimeters, the Samyang 12 millimeters, and so on. So these lenses are way better than the kit lens if you would like to vlog handheld. But what if you don't want to invest in a new lens that costs lots of money just to vlog with, and you would like to use this one that has a wider zoom range from 16 to 50 millimeters. You can use it for street photography, for some videos on the go, for some travel photography and videography. So this lens is a very nice option to have on the Sony camera. So the only thing you have to do is to change your mini tripod, your tabletop tripod, with a gimbal. I have now here the Weebill 3E from Cinepeer Zion. You can have some other options as well, the DJI RS3 Mini, the Hohem MT2, the Scorp Mini 2 or the Scorp 2 from Feiyutech. So you have lots of options in the market to choose from. You have some that has the AI tracking, some others that they have a fill light. So you have lots of options to choose from, and they are not expensive at all. And you can use them for several kind of scenarios, not only for vlogging. But once again, this comes at a certain cost because this one is heavier than this one. Keep that in mind. It's not that heavy, but it will add more weight, of course, to your arm when vlogging. And by the end of the day, you will feel that your arm is tired having this gimbal all the time. Now I'm shooting with the 16 millimeters on this kit lens. I turned off the stabilization of the camera, so the only stabilization I have is the stabilization of the gimbal, the Weebill 3E. But it's so tiring to have the gimbal and walking and vlogging all the day long because it's somehow heavy. Having a gimbal will allow you to have some smooth footages without using the electronic stabilization of the camera. That means that you will not need to crop inside of your image, and then you will get the real 16 millimeters coming out from this lens here, the kit lens, and you will have the wide field of view for your vlogs, and that's something very interesting while vlogging. But what if you'd like to use your camera not only to vlog with, but also to make some rushes, some videos with it on the go, and have smooth and stabilized footages? Well, you can use Catalyst Browse that will recognize the files of the camera because you have the gyro data on the files. So the Catalyst Browse will stabilize the footages based on the gyro data, but that will add a huge crop also to the footages. You can use whether DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro to smooth out your footages. That will add also crops to your image, and that's not something that you would like to have, especially if you framed your shot according to what you are seeing on the screen, and then later on in post you have to crop in, so all of your framing will be off, and you don't want to have this. So the only option to have, if you don't want to use a gimbal, is to hold your camera with your two hands as close as possible to your body and make some smooth and slow movements with it, whether panning from right to left or from left to right, push in and push out, slide up and slide down, but very slowly. That will give you some smooth footages with your A6700, even if you are not using the active stab mode. There is another way around if you would like to use this camera to make some smooth footages without a gimbal, and this is when shooting in slow motion comes in handy. You can turn this camera to shoot in 120 frames per second, and then you can slow down the footages on your 24 frames per second timeline on post, and by that you will remove or you will hide all of those little jitters in your footages. But keep in mind that shooting in slow motion will add a crop to the image once again. If you invested in a gimbal, that does not mean at all that you will have smooth footages coming out of it directly. There are 3 rules you have to follow in order to get these stable footages. The first one is to balance your camera perfectly on top of your gimbal, and that's something very normal, of course. The second thing, I highly recommend you to turn off all the stabilization modes on your camera, because the gimbal will stabilize mechanically, and if you add some electronic stabilization, that will add some artifacts in your shots, and you don't want to have this. And the third thing is that you have to learn how to do the ninja walk, or these small footsteps on the ground, to have some really smooth footages, because the gimbal cannot help you to remove the bumps of the street, the bumps of the walk. That's why making those small steps will help you smooth out your footages. That's it for today's video. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you find it interesting. If so, please give it a like. That helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done it. If you are interested in any of the products I talk about, whether in this video or some other videos, please refer to my affiliate links down below. If you purchase via my links, you don't pay extra money. You get some discounts on lots of stuff, by the way, and you help my channel at no extra cost for you. And thank you for watching. Ciao for now.